Today, I would like to talk about Kegels. What Kegels or pelvic floor exercises are, how to do them, when to do them, and how does that affect pelvic floor. So if you had a chance to watch my video last week, you have probably learned about the difference between urge incontinence and stress incontinence. And if you want to recap it in a nutshell, if you have an urge incontinence, please stay away from Kegels. They are not a thing you want to do ever, or at least not at this point in time. So you can think about Kegels as sort of like a gym workout for your pelvic floor. They represent a basic strength training or strength control in the pelvic floor. Or the way I like to think about Kegels, they are more like able to locate pelvic floor muscles and give the brain the signal. It's like, hey, this is where my pelvic floor muscles are. So taking that next step is you want to do pelvic floor exercises only if you have stress incontinence, only if you are being affected by bladder emptying, if you cough, if you sneeze, or if you are doing some impact exercise, jogging, running, and so on, and your pelvic floor starts to boom, 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 leak. So our next step here is to understand really what Kegel is. And I'm gonna be really bold because up till this point I have worked with thousands and thousands of women from all over the globe in my online programs, in my classes, in my workshops. And until this point, I have not met one single woman that would say my doctor or my OBGYN has sat with me and explained step by step, piece by piece, how to actually perform Kegel. So I want to take that mystification and mystery out of that and really share with you how to perform healthy Kegel. So if we look at the image of pelvic floor musculature, we are trying to control, trying to affect an area which is known as perineum. If you have done yoga, you're probably very familiar with Mula Bandha. This is where that lock comes in place. But if you're not yogi, please don't despair and keep watching this video, because perineum is, in a very simple language, a muscle tissue between the end of vaginal opening and beginning of anal sphincter. So you will be doing contractions not on any hole. This is not about stopping your urine flow, which many women mistakenly thinking, oh, I need to be cutting off my urine flow or maybe squeezing buttocks when I'm trying to do Kegel. No, you will be controlling perineum. Again, end of vaginal opening and in front of anal sphincter, there is a muscle tissue. There's a lot of muscle tissue, and this is where the control comes from. Now, the second piece that muscles in your rib cage, and I'm specifically thinking like the respiratory diaphragm, is actually directly relating to the pelvic floor, and there is a very nuanced relationship between the diaphragm and between the pelvic floor, which will be focus of our next video, I promise. But for now, what I want you to think about is that because of this relationship, we actually have to base the Kegel work or that contraction of perineum based on the breath. So during a process of what's called abdominal breath, what the diaphragm is doing, it's moving downwards, it's moving south into the pelvic floor, and that causes the pelvic floor musculature to descend for a little bit. When we exhale, the diaphragm is moving upwards towards its natural resting position between the lungs, which causes the pelvic floor to be sort of like traction along. So we have this motion on inhale and this motion on exhale. And as we know that is this movement it makes only sense to do the Kegel or the lift up in the exhalation, doesn't it? Because the pelvic floor is already moving upwards. It's like, oh, I can add a little bit of like a line of pull in order to reinforce that natural motion. So you start by sitting with your rib cage above the pelvis, which means there is no rounding of the spine or shearing of the ribs forward. The diaphragm has a chance to be stacked directly above the pelvic floor. That's the key here. And you begin by breathing with the abdominal breath. So on inhale, the abdomen swells forward, which actually makes the diaphragm move south into the pelvic floor. And as you exhale, because the diaphragm is already moving upwards, north towards the lungs, and the pelvic floor is being dragged up, you simply lift the perineum up in the exhale. So with inhale, the diaphragm is moving south. The pelvic floor receives a moment of relaxation, and when you exhale, you create a little lift, a line of pull on the perineum as the pelvic floor and the diaphragm are moving upwards. So this is a basic motion of the Kegel. Again, it happens, the contraction happens only up in the exhalation, and when you are inhaling and the diaphragm is moving south, the key is to allow the pelvic floor go into relaxation response. So there is that subtle dance of relaxation, contraction, relaxation, contraction. Now, to see any results at all, you really need to do at least 20 to 30 repetitions every single day, absolutely basing those contractions up in the breathing, while at the same time being vigilant of the relationship between your rib cage and the pelvis. And that's, my ladies and sisters, how you get ahead with Kegels or pelvic floor exercises in your life. Hey my ladies and sisters, if you have enjoyed this episode, do me 2 favors. First, subscribe to my YouTube channel, so anytime I release new video, update or training, you get notification of that delivered straight to your inbox. Second, if you want to accelerate your pelvic floor healing, I would like to give you a free guide on how to heal your pelvic floor 4 times faster. Now, inside of the guide, there are my personal tools, routines, and habits I use every single day to ensure that my pelvic floor is strong and supple. I have 0 pain. I have pain-free menstruations. And my body and my pelvis has enough strength to do any workouts or any trainings I want and I desire to feel fantastic. So all you need to do to get this guide is go on my website, which is dagmarkhan.com. That's dagmarkhan.com/4 times faster, and just enter your name and email address, and I'll send this guide to you personally for free. Until I see you next time, be brilliant, be healthy, and roll with passion.